What if I told you that some of cinema's most legendary moments happened by complete accident? From actors too sick to fight, to lines that were never written, to mistakes so perfect they became movie history. Today, we're exploring the beautiful chaos of filmmaking when movie accidents created cinema legend. Let's start with one of the most famous screw it moments in film history. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. The Cairo Marketplace. Indiana Jones is being chased through crowded streets when suddenly he's confronted by this imposing swordsman. The guy starts showing off these incredible sword skills, twirling his blade like a master warrior. You can almost feel the epic fight scene building. And then Indy just shoots him. But here's what you didn't know. That wasn't supposed to happen. The original script called for an elaborate whip versus sword duel. They had choreographed this massive fight sequence. The stuntman had trained for months. They were planning to film for 3 whole days. But Harrison Ford was dying. Literally. He had dysentery, along with most of the crew. He could barely stand for 10 minutes without running to the bathroom. So when they got to the scene, Ford looked at Steven Spielberg and said, "Why don't I just shoot the guy?" Spielberg loved it. The stuntman? Not so much. But that split-second decision created one of the most character-defining moments in cinema history. Sometimes the best action sequences aren't about the action at all. They're about being too sick to care. But illness wasn't the only thing that created movie magic by accident. Blade Runner, 1982. That legendary final scene. Roy Batty, the replicant, is dying in the rain and delivers one of cinema's most beautiful monologues. All those moments will be lost in time like tears in rain. But Rutger Hauer wrote those words himself. The original script had a much longer, more technical speech about the things Roy had seen. Hauer thought it was too wordy and didn't capture the poetry of the moment. The night before filming, he rewrote the entire speech by hand. He cut it down from several paragraphs to just a few haunting lines. Director Ridley Scott had no idea Hauer was going to change it. When the cameras rolled, Hauer delivered this completely new monologue that nobody had heard before. The crew was silent. Scott knew immediately they had captured something extraordinary. One actor's last-minute rewrite created what many consider the most beautiful death scene in science fiction history. Sometimes the most profound words come from the heart, not the page. Speaking of unplanned pain, let's talk about one of the most authentic reactions in cinema history. The Lord of the Rings. The Two Towers. Aragorn discovers what he thinks are the burned remains of Merry and Pippin. In anguish, he kicks an Uruk-hai helmet and lets out this gut-wrenching scream. That scream? Completely real. Viggo Mortensen broke 2 toes kicking that helmet. The fall to his knees, the cry of pain. That wasn't Aragorn mourning his friends. That was Viggo Mortensen in genuine agony. But like the true method actor he is, Mortensen channeled his real pain into his character's emotional devastation. He didn't break character. He didn't call cut. He turned a painful accident into one of the most powerful moments in the trilogy. Peter Jackson kept the take because it was so raw, so authentic. And this wasn't even Viggo's only injury during the trilogy. The man literally bled for Middle-earth. But not all movie accidents involve physical pain. Sometimes they involve psychological terror. Goodfellas, 1990. That legendary funny house scene. Tommy gets called a funny guy by Henry and suddenly turns threatening, demanding to know what's so funny about him.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
The entire exchange, one of the most tension-filled moments in cinema, wasn't in the script. It came from Joe Pesci's real life. When he was young, working as a waiter, he made the mistake of calling a mobster funny. The guy didn't take it as a compliment. During rehearsals, Pesci told this story to Martin Scorsese and Ray Liotta. Scorsese loved it and decided to work it into the film. Hey, but here's the genius part. Scorsese didn't tell the other actors what was coming. When they filmed the scene, everyone else's shocked reactions were completely genuine. They thought Pesci and Liotta were having a real fight. The scene that helped make Joe Pesci an Oscar winner came from him getting threatened by a real mobster years earlier. Sometimes life writes better scripts than Hollywood ever could. course, not all movie accidents are about confrontation. Sometimes they're just New York attitude. Midnight Cowboy, 1969. There's this scene where Dustin Hoffman is crossing the street and a taxi almost hits him. He pounds on the hood and yells, "I'm walking here! I'm walking here!" That was completely real. A real taxi driver broke through the barricade and nearly ran over Hoffman.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
Instead of breaking character, Hoffman stayed as Ratso Rizzo, this scrappy street hustler, and gave that taxi driver a piece of his mind. Director John Schlesinger loved the authenticity so much, he kept it in the film. That unscripted moment became one of the most quoted lines in movie history. It perfectly captured the attitude of New York street life in the 1960s. Sometimes the most authentic moments happen when reality crashes into fiction. Speaking of reality crashing into fiction, let's talk about some beloved accidents. Star Wars, 1977. There's this blink and you'll miss it moment where a stormtrooper bonks his head on a doorframe. Complete accident. The actor couldn't see through his helmet and just walked straight into the door. George Lucas kept it in, and in later releases, he even added a sound effect to make it more obvious. This tiny mistake became one of the most beloved moments in Star Wars history. And then there's Jaws, 1975. You're gonna need a bigger boat. Never in the script. It started as an inside joke on set. The production was troubled, equipment kept breaking, and the support boat was too small. Crew members kept saying, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." Roy Scheider picked up on it and sneaked it into that perfect moment when he first sees the shark. One inside joke became one of the most quoted movie lines ever. Sometimes the best writing happens when you throw away the script.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
These accidents teach us something profound about filmmaking. Yes, movies are meticulously planned, scripted to death, storyboarded frame by frame. But the moments we remember most often come from chaos, from actors brave enough to trust their instincts, from directors wise enough to recognize magic when they see it, from crew members humble enough to admit when something isn't working. Because the best cinema happens when real life crashes into the artificial world of movie making. When dysentery defeats elaborate choreography. When broken bones become broken hearts. When inside jokes become eternal quotes.
You're gonna need a bigger
When
boat.
actors rewrite poetry in their hotel rooms. These unplanned moments feel more real than reality itself. They remind us that behind every great film, there are real people taking real risks, making real mistakes, and sometimes creating real magic. In a world of digital perfection and endless takes, these accidents are precious. They're proof that the best art often comes from embracing the chaos instead of controlling it.